A very good morning to all the students of class 12th political science. And students, we were doing the second chapter of your book Contemporary World Politics, and the name of the chapter is End of Bipolarity. Although all the content of NCERT book we have completed, but we are doing some of the additional topics which have been merged with chapter 2 from chapter 3. So we had started with those topics, that was unipolar world. Okay, we were discussing that, and under those topics we had discussed various important operations which shows the hegemony and dominance of US on the world politics, on the world affairs after the disintegration of USSR. That is why these topics have been added with the chapter, that is end of bipolarity, that is with the collapse of USSR, how US showed its dominance through various events. We are trying to understand the dominance and hegemony of US at the world level. So as we have seen the Operation Desert Storm, then we have seen how after the attack of 9/11 US responded it through launching a operation that was Enduring Freedom. And today we'll see the other part, that is the Iraq invasion. You can see here, and how US operated and launched a new operation, that was Operation Iraqi Freedom. So today we'll study about Operation Iraqi Freedom and how US had shown its dominance once again. So now I hope you can relate these topics, that what is the reason these topics from chapter 3 have been merged with chapter number 2, that is the end of bipolarity. But with the end of bipolarity, how US as a sole superpower in the world has shown its dominance. We are trying to prove that with the help of certain examples and incidents which had taken place after the disintegration of USSR. Okay, so let me show you one of the timeline so that you can relate these topics very well before we start this part 7 of this chapter. As you can see here very well, I have written first, this is first Gulf War, where after the disintegration of USSR, after that is after 1991. Okay, what happened? US has tried to dominate the world through various incidents. We can understand, that is, first we read about the Gulf War, that is the invasion of Kuwait by Iran. When Iran had invaded Kuwait with us, so in that they had started an operation, that was Operation Desert Storm by UN, but the major role and the more dominance was shown by America, where 75% of the troops belonged to US, and this was all controlled by United States. So we saw the first Gulf War, which is also called by the operation, that is the Desert Storm. Then we saw that was the part in 1990. Now in 2001, what happened? The attack of 9/11 attack on America, 11 September 2001. In response to this attack, America started an operation whose name was Enduring Freedom, in which is targeted all the areas which were assumed to be the behind the attack of 9/11. Then today we are going to understand Iraq invasion by US. Now US again invaded Iraq. What were the reasons for this invasion? We are going to understand that, and this happened on 19th March 2003. This is also known by the name Gulf War. But if the question comes, only the Gulf War is mentioned, so you will have to mention only this invasion of Kuwait by Iraq, that is Operation Desert Storm. But if in particular they ask about the Iraqi war or the Iraqi invasion by US, then you will have to mention this Gulf War. Okay, so you should know 1990, 2001, 2003. So you can see a series of incidents which are taking part one after the other. Okay, so now today we are going to understand this part. So starting this Iraq invasion, which is also called by the name Second Gulf War. So on 19th March 2003, please remember the name when it comes to Iraq invasion, don't be confused. The first which we read in 1990, that was the Kuwait invasion, where Iraq invaded on Kuwait. But now here US invaded Iraq. That is why it is called Iraq invasion by US. Okay, so you need to remember this. So on 19 March 2003, US launched Operation Iraqi Freedom. So indirectly a question can be there, what do you understand by the Operation Iraqi Freedom? So you must know US has launched this operation against Iraq on 19th March 2003. And what were the reasons? from preventing Iraq, because US said that it wanted to prevent Iraq from developing weapons of mass destruction. In short, we call them WMDs. So US gave the reason behind the invasion, that US wanted to control and prevent Iraq from developing these weapons of mass destructions, because we have seen in the attack of 9/11 how America was targeted and attacked in a planned way, where a lot of weapons were also used. So US showed the world that it did not wanted these Middle East countries or the Arab countries to develop any weapons which can be harmful for the human survival or for the whole world. So here US gave the reason that it wanted to prevent Iraq from developing the weapons of mass destruction in an ostensible meaning. Ostensible purpose means here that US was trying to show that it wanted to stop Iraq from developing weapons of mass destruction, but in reality the purpose of US for invading Iraq was something else, which was a secret, we can say. It was showing the world that it was protecting the world, it was stopping Iraq from developing such nuclear weapons or mass destruction weapons. But in real sense, the real purpose was here US wanted to control the oil fields of Iraq. As we know, Iraq is very rich in terms of its oil production. So US wanted to control these oil fields and installing a regime in Iraq friendly to US, and it wanted to start a regime which was friendly to US so that US can have the access to these oil fields permanently. So this was the real reason or the real purpose behind invading Iraq. But in an ostensible purpose here means, but the US was showing the other parts of the world that the reason behind the invasion was to stop Iraq from developing the weapons of mass destruction, because they said that as US was attacked during 9/11 attack, other parts of the world could also be attacked by these mass destruction weapons in future. So they wanted to stop Iraq from it. But the real reasons were it wanted to control the oil fields of Iraq, and also they wanted to install a regime which was friendly to US. Okay, so this was the introduction part of this when we talk about the Iraq invasion. And you must know the name which US launched this operation with, the name Iraqi Freedom. Operation Iraqi Freedom. So this I have written it again. Operation in this 19th March 2003. So you must relate the topics as I have shown you in 1990 invasion of Kuwait, in 2001 9/11 attack, and now in 2003 Iraq invasion by US. So when US had declared in advance, okay, so before this only US has announced around the world that it is going to invade Iraq by the operation name that is Iraqi Freedom. Okay, so at this time when US has already in advance announced that it is going to start operation Iraqi Freedom against Iraq to stop them from developing the weapons of mass destruction, at this particular time around the world we see lot of protests and demonstrations to stop US from invading Iraq. People thought that it was useless to invade Iraq, and we do not have lot of proofs and evidences to attack Iraq, because after the 9/11 attack the US army and officials used to from time to time used to go and inspect the Iraq, that there was no development of those destructive weapons. But now the Iraqi government had disapproved and did not allow these US agencies or the officials to come enter and do inspection of these places. So here US started Operation Iraqi Freedom, but around the world people were opposed to this action of US. For example, we have taken some places. Rome anti-war rally, there was a rally taken out, it was called Rome anti-war rally. A rally taken out in Rome, and this rally was against the war. They did not wanted war to happen again, and there were around 3 million people participated. 300 million, can you imagine, people participated in this rally which was organized in Rome. And this this rally was against war, that is why it is called anti-war. Here some countries like France, Germany, the European countries which were also the allies of US, New Zealand also, these three countries directly opposed this action of US. They said it is wrong to invade Iraq now. Even the American citizens opposed. Now the people and the citizen of America, they also did not wanted America or US to invade Iraq, because there was not enough evidences to invade Iraq by the operation name Operation Iraqi Freedom. Because as we have seen in the past, there were continuously a series of incidents happening between America and these terrorist groups belonging to Arab countries, maybe Taliban and Al Qaeda. They had attacked US embassies in the other part of the world, and then America has directly attacked those places. As we have seen in the response to 9/11 attack, we had seen how America had targeted the areas which were thought that they were behind this attack of 9/11. Okay, and then we had seen a 9/11 attack. Now they thought again, if America started Operation Iraqi Freedom, maybe after this those Arab countries or those terrorist group can again attack America. So here people were against, American people or the citizens were against this invasion. So and in fact the UN refused to give mandate. United Nations also said that US should not invade Iraq, as there are not enough evidences on the basis of which we can say that okay, you have the permission to invade. But apart of denying of United Nations that they were not allowed, US was not allowed to invade Iraq, still America invaded Iraq. But the important point here is UN also refused to give its mandate. 36 million, if we see around the world, around 36 million people across the globe took part in 3000 protests against Iraq war. So there were around 3000 protests going around the world, anti-war protests, which were trying to stop US from this Iraq war, and there were around total 36 million people participating in all these 3000 protests around the world. But despite these protests, okay, despite this protest, US along with 40 countries coalition, still US did not stop. So many people, so many agencies around the different parts of the world were stopping US. Even UN was not giving their mandate to US. But here US, as we are talking about the hegemony, we are talking about the unipolar world, they were dominating all the spheres around the world. All the activities around the world were revolving around the US dominance, its hegemony. So US along with 40 countries were also with along with US. So they formed a coalition, and this coalition was around 1,77,000 troops. Okay, they gathered, and out of this 1,77,000 troops, 1,30,000 troops were alone of US. So you can see the disparity and the difference. 40 countries were a part of US, but if you see the troops including US and these 40 countries, total troops were 1,77,000. But out of these 1,77,000 troops, 1,30,000 were alone of US. This shows the dominance and power of US also. Okay, so with that, they did not listen to anyone despite all those protests. So finally in 2003, which started in 19th March, okay, as we protest, this operation started 19 March 2003, and by 9th April, so it had already started. By 9th April, US Army and the coalition of US along with 40 countries, all these troops reached and controlled Baghdad, which was the capital of Iraq. So easily they captured and controlled the capital of Iraq, which was Baghdad. Okay, and Saddam Hussein, as we know, was the president of Iraq. He escaped, and by 1st May, within a month, we can say George W. Bush, this was Junior Bush. Okay, when we talk about 1919 Operation Desert Storm, at that time Senior Bush was the US president. But here at this time, when we talk about Iraq invasion, this time Junior Bush was the president of US. So George W. Bush. Senior Bush was George H.W. Bush. Okay, so here George W. Bush ended invasion period. So it started on 19th March. By 9th April, they reached and controlled Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. And by 1st May, George W. Bush, he said that let's end this invasion period, because they had covered and controlled Iraq properly. And with that, as soon as US has controlled and invaded in Iraq properly, by 1st May this invasion was formally officially ended. But the US army stayed in Iraq, and they began the period of military occupation. Military occupations means the US army stayed there, and they looked after the administration of Iraq. Here now US army will stay in Iraq and directly run the administration, and they tried to run the administration. And you must remember, US army stayed there. They went in 2003 and they stayed there till 2011. When Barack Obama was the president, he called the American troops back in 2011, as in Iraq the situations were critical. And post-war, if we talk about post-war, it means after the invasion, which was over in 1st May 2003. After that, continuously in Iraq there has been a situation of civil war, where different groups, different powerful political parties, okay, various regimes have started fighting to control the power of Iraq. As Saddam Hussein escaped, okay, his government was demolished. So now to gain the power, there has been many members who want to gain the power of Iraq. For that, there was a situation of civil war, in which there was lot of loss of property and people, both of American this army also, and civil people of Iraq also. So let's see what was the aim which has been shown by US. Aim of US military, as they have shown in an ostensible purpose, where they were trying to prove the world that they wanted to stop the weapons of the, we can say, to prevent Iraq from developing weapons of mass destruction, okay. And they also proved that they wanted Saddam Hussein to end the support to terrorism, as they knew that Saddam Hussein was always supporting the terrorism from Afghanistan in terms of Taliban and other Al Qaeda, the terrorist groups. This was a reason, but the actual aim of US army was controlling Iraqi oil fields and installing a regime friendly to US. So these were the real reasons. So this was all about Iraq invasion. Now some of the content I have not written down here, I am reading out from your NCERT book, which is important for you to learn. I'm repeating some of the content which I have already explained. I will just read it. On 19th March 2003, must remember the date, the US launched its invasion on Iraq under the code name, must remember the code name, Operation Iraqi Freedom. In this, more than 40 other countries joined the US-led coalition, I have told you, of willing and willingly. They were not forced. Willingly they joined the US-led coalition to fight against Iraq, or for the Iraq invasion. Although UN had refused to give its mandate, UN was against this action of US. But US, we know, was having a dominance around the world, as we are talking about the unipolar world. So after, although UN did not give its mandate, but still they continued with the Iraq invasion, and 40 other countries supported US. The ostensible purpose, as I told you, invasion was to prevent Iraq from, so US was trying to show the world that it was trying to prevent Iraq from developing weapons of mass destruction. It was trying to prove to the world, since no evidence of WMS, weapons of mass destruction, has been unearthed in Iraq. But if we go, there are no evidence found in Iraq which could prove that they were trying to develop such type of weapons, okay. It is speculated, so now it is believed that the invasion was motivated by the other objectives. So now it is believed by the people, okay, and by the observers, that this was not the real objective of US to invade Iraq, but the real reason was, and the real objective was, controlling Iraqi oil fields. Now US objective was to control the oil fields of Iraq and install a regime friendly to US. These two were the real objectives of US. Now, moving forward. Although the government of Saddam Hussein fell swiftly, so when US attacked the Iraqi forces, so it was very easy, as US was having a coalition of other 40 countries, and I have given you the number also, okay. The number of troops was very huge for Iraq to face, so easily they could overthrow the government of Saddam Hussein, fell swiftly, and Saddam Hussein disappeared and he hid himself, and US army was continuously in search of Saddam Hussein. The US had not been able to pacify Iraq, but after this invasion, we are talking about the post-war. After the war was over, invasion was over, as I told you, on 1st May, Junior Bush has announced that this invasion was over. But after this invasion, that is a post-war, here they could not pacify Iraq. It means they could not bring peace and decorum in this area of Iraq after the war also. as I told you, many of the political parties and many individuals and many social political groups raised where they wanted to run the Iraqi government according to them. So there started a civil war. So that is why it's written here. The US was not able to pacify Iraq. Instead, a full-fledged insurgency against US occupation was ignited in Iraq. As US started staying in Iraq itself, so many groups were against this occupation of US, while the US had lost. So after the war, after the invasion, US had lost around 3000 military personnel in the war. Okay, Iraqi casualties were much more higher. So if we talk about the casualties of the Iraqi people, Iraqi army, it was much higher as compared to the military of US. It is conservatively estimated that 50,000, okay, it is estimated around 50,000 Iraqi civilians have been killed, only civilians, okay, since the US led invasion. So since you had started this invasion, 50,000 Iraqis were killed, and for no purpose, as the purpose given by US was ostensible in nature, where they showed the world that they wanted to stop Iraq from preparing or making the weapons of mass destructions, but in real sense they had an selfish motive, that was they wanted to control the oil fields of Iraq. It's written here. It is now widely recognized that the US invasion of Iraq was, in some crucial respect, both a military and a political failure. So now here observers have said this invasion of US invasion, which we call on Iraq, was one of the military and political failure. Military failure where so many people, that is 50,000 Iraqis and 3,000 military people of US, they were killed and for no purpose, and there was a situation of civil war. And also we can see this was also called the political failure, because here UN and so many people were against this invasion of US on Iraq, as we have seen in the notes. So many people, so many agencies, anti-war protests were going around the world to stop US from invading Iraq, but US did not listen to anyone and it invaded Iraq, and this was a result and outcome of the invasion of Iraq. So with this we come to the topic. This is the Iraq invasion. This is also called Second Gulf War. In the next topic we will move forward with the other topic, but before I end this video, let me show you one question relating to this particular topic. These two questions are of the topic which are included to chapter number 2 from chapter number 3. It is relating to New World Order, means we are talking about the unipolar world. When and why did New World Order begin? So the New World Order began in 1991, that is after the disintegration of USSR, we can say, after the collapse of Soviet Union. The world was left only one single superpower, that is the US, and which came to be known as the US hegemony, the chapter US hegemony. And to show the superiority of its military power, US hegemony also shaped to show its military superpowers. That is why we have seen some incidents where US is trying to show its dominance. The US hegemony also shaped world economy and emerged in the form of military dominance, economic. So it was trying to show its military dominance, economic dominance, political dominance, and cultural superiority in all the spheres, at the world politics, world level, at the world platform, at every sphere US used to show its dominance. That is why we are calling it a unipolar world. Now the topic which we have covered today, the question out of it is, you can see a picture also, how US made an invasion on Iraq, how these people are captured, why US launched a war against Iraq. So they are asking a reason. In this they can also ask you, what do you understand by the Operation Iraqi Freedom? So there are many type of questions which can come out of from a single topic. So here they can ask you, why did US launch a war against Iraq? So you will have to mention the date. On 19th March 2003, the US launched a war against Iraq under the, and what the code name of the operation was, Operation Iraqi Freedom, to be, and this was joined by 40 other countries under the leadership of US. On the ground, toward the ground's reason that they told that it wanted to prevent Iraq from developing weapons of mass destruction without no evidence against Iraq, but they did not had any evidence. That is why in the book we have used the word unstable reason. Okay. Hence the ostensible purpose were different as controlling. So the real objectives were controlling Iraqi oil field and installing regime friendly to US. So I hope you can understand. Okay. Okay, with this I am ending this chapter. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, this particular topic.